What, just take your questions as well.
Yeah, I have one to start.
Okay. Well.
Somebody asked on Twitter.
Paulie Malignaggi, we're going live on Paulie TV, taking your questions. Let me know what's up. I'm here in the studio. I'm watching the Champions League game with Juventus and Villarreal. I'm kind of ticked off because usually this result, for any of you soccer or football fans, is my friends in England call it football. In Italy, we call it calcio. Whatever you call it, I'm still ticked off because right now this result, 0-0, at home for Juve would be fine. We would advance under the old rules, the away goals rule, because we drew 1-1 at Villarreal. So a 0-0 draw at home would advance us. Instead, at 0-0 under these moronic new rules. Why do they have to change rules when there's no reason to change rules? It was fine before. It was totally fine. Wow, what a rocket. What a rocket with a shot. Anyway, I'm aggravated because if it stays 0-0, we're going to extra time. We'll see. I'm a big Serie A fan. I don't have a particular team that I go crazy for, but I root for any Serie A teams when they play internationally. I just want the best for that league. It's a league I grew up watching. When I was a kid, it was the best league in the world. Oh, this is a shot. Rabiot. No, that was one that went out. Anyway. Let me know I may be making random comments about the game while I'm answering your questions. If you guys want to discuss this game, you can send some messages about that too. Serie A has fallen off a lot in recent years as far as internationally. We just don't have the money we used to in the Italian league, or at least not even so much the money we used to. I don't think it was ever about money as much as it has been now. So all these super rich teams getting bought by these super rich execs and oil tycoons and all kinds of Israeli billionaires like Roman Abramovich. We don't have that in Italy, so we have to make the best of what we can.
All right, Wally BooTube is asking who wins, James Toney versus Bernard Hopkins at 160.
Oh, that's a nice one. I got, you know what? I like Toney better as a fighter overall, but I just don't know. We could guarantee in a fight like that Hopkins would show up at his best. We couldn't always guarantee that James Toney would show up at his best. So I'd probably slightly edge to Hopkins in a middleweight fight. But I'll tell you this. I like Toney's overall style better than Hopkins. I just if they were really gonna fight, could you really trust Toney getting in the best shape possible every single fight? You couldn't always do that, right? I think when he was at his best, I think Toney at his best, if he shows up at his best, is a better overall fighter than Hopkins. But I think you can't always guarantee that. You could always guarantee, though, that Bernard Hopkins will show up at his best all the time.
The same question, not on here, but Toney versus Canelo at 168. Remember me asking you about that?
Yeah. No, I got Toney at that weight. But again, it's the same kind of thing. But the thing about Canelo is he doesn't force a fast pace, so even an out-of-shape Toney could go with it. Listen, bro, I can remember when Toney gets in shape, he's on it, bro. I mean, even at cruiserweight, that fight with Vasily Girov, the pace of that fight was insanity. You give me that kind of James Toney, he's hard to beat against anybody in the world.
Cool. Charlie Zenoff versus Paulie. Who wins?
Zelenov. Oh, man. I don't know.
Jose S.
Charlie was a major successful troll in boxing. I mean, that guy. I don't know, to double up his success as a troll in boxing. I wonder if he ever made any money. He used to get a lot of followers, and a lot of people would follow what he was doing. I still always question if he was serious, or if this was all tongue in cheek at the end of the day, or if maybe he was a little bit off. I don't know, but I know Charlie Z would always give himself the win no matter what. If he landed a shot, he'd win the fight. That was it. So under those rules, it'd be hard to beat Charlie Z.
Faust is asking, what do you think of Leigh Woods?
Leigh Woods a good fighter, man. That was some fight with Conlon. I look forward to seeing Conlon come back. Leigh Woods is a terrific fighter. I don't understand why that title fight wasn't for the main WBA title at featherweight. I don't see how Santa Cruz still has that title. He hasn't defended it in ages. I don't see the point of letting Leo Santa Cruz keep that title. I feel like Leigh Woods and and Mick Conley should have been fighting for the premier version of that title. I just don't like that secondary title. I don't like secondary titles in any way class. The secondary world titles in any sanctioning body that's making them. They turn off the sport, and people get confused. People get confused as to which guy has the real title. Because they instead of making guys fight each other, they just give them both belts, and then if they defend them a few times, suddenly people forget. Like with Devin Haney and Lomachenko, for example. People forget that wasn't Devin Haney who won the main title. He won the secondary title. But now, because time has elapsed and he's defended it a bunch of times, he just inherited the legitimate world championship status. I don't see how that's possible. But I don't like, this is a big reason why I don't like these secondary titles, because people forget and stop realizing who the main champion is in that sanctioning body. It's really frustrating, and it makes it impossible to get new fans to boxing, because even the fans in boxing have a hard time keeping up.
Shaw, West Coast Boxing said, what up, Paulie?
What's up?
S. Mencius asks, what do you think of Virgil Ortiz getting hospitalized?
I wasn't familiar with this thing that he had. I was told it was something that has to do with dropping too much weight or something like that. Listen, it's always dangerous. Making weight can always be a dangerous thing. I mean, I put my body through a lot of stresses making weight. I don't know what ended up happening with him, but it seems like he's okay now, and I'm glad to see he's okay. But you can't, if you have a situation where your body's just shutting down due to making weight, it's probably better you don't fight. And then people say, oh, it's the week of the fight. How'd that happen? Well, that's when you're cutting the most weight. That's when you're down to the nitty gritty, and that's when you're going to have the most difficulty. So if something like this was going to happen in this context, where it had to do with weight making and weakening of him, or getting sick in some way because of weight making, it would happen the week of the fight. So that's the only way you'd see it happening at the last minute. You would see it. You would only see this kind of thing happening at the last minute. So unfortunately, we won't get to see him this week. But I think Virgil Ortiz is one of the best prospects in all of boxing, and not just in the welterweight division.
Iceman thinks we're not live, so he's asking if you go live on other channels.
No, we're live. We're definitely live. We're live.
Fight Stars TV, Fight Hub TV.
Yeah, Fight Stars TV, Fight Hub. The Boxing Voice goes live. We have Fight Stars is like an umbrella of channels that we have here. Paulie TV is one of them. Fight Stars has also the Boxing Voice and also Fight Hub. Right? Fight Hub.
Fight Hub TV. Yeah,
Fight Hub TV as well. So we all go live from time to time here at the studio in Vegas. The other guys live out here. I don't, but I'm out here on a regular basis. We just do our thing. But yes, absolutely, we're live. We're live right now.
What do you think of? Do you think Tyson Fury really retires after the white fight? That's what Pedro.
Good question.
I don't know. I feel like Tyson's made plenty of money, and he probably has enough money to. If he seems like an intelligent guy, and he probably has enough money to be able to retire if he wanted to. I think though he's probably blaspheming a little bit, I think you shouldn't retire without at least having fought AJ or Usyk, Although with Usyk and the Ukrainian fighters right now, it's a little bit difficult because they're with their military standing up for their country. But that's another shame too, because from what Egis Klimas was saying, Lomachenko and Kambosos was all but done, and I know how badly Lomachenko wanted a chance at the undisputed title, and that would have been a great fight to do. And then this war broke out, and now I fear that ship may have sailed for Lomachenko to accomplish that goal, because when I see a guy working so hard towards a certain goal and he hasn't yet achieved it. Yeah, he's achieved so much on the way, and I feel like he'd have finally was so close he could taste it. He was close against Teofimo, but Teofimo, is an incredible fighter when he's on. I would have loved to see him get the chance against Kambosos, who I think is always underrated, but always brings a great fight and is not easy to deal with. So I would have loved to see that fight, and I feel like it's probably not going to happen now. Possibly, maybe Devin Haney steps in and gets the shot at Kambosos, which will allow us to see the level of Devin Haney as well, because I don't think Devin Haney has stepped up to that kind of level yet. And I think that I think he's ready to, for sure. I think he's ready to, for sure. Now, I know people like to call him a world champion. I don't consider him a world champion, but I do consider him a fighter who's good, a good young fighter, and I think he's ready to make that next jump to that level where he doesn't have to, quote unquote, lie about being a world champion. He may actually be able to win legitimate titles because he's that talented. But I certainly would love to see it. I would have loved to see Lomachenko get the shot at Kambosos first. But if not, I wouldn't mind seeing Haney be able to step in. I do think it's a shame because of the world events that are happening that Lomachenko is now, forced to sort of consider other things, I guess more important things when you think about the reality of it, as opposed to the undisputed title. But I am sure that if he never gets to fight for it, I am sure he's going to, and in his own mind at least, he'll always have a sort of a disappointment, because I can see that guy's a perfectionist and he's very, very passionate about his boxing.
Me and Lion Killa debated the other day who had the best shoulder roll. He says Floyd. Who do you think had? That's from Marion Brown.
Lion Killer's the man. That's my guy, Adonis. Shout out to Lion Killer. You know what? I think Floyd was very smart. He knew when to do it, when not to do it. I think the shoulder roll is a timing thing. It's not just people kind of have misconceptions about the shoulder roll. I think there's a video where I'm explaining how Brunner was doing it and the difference with the way Brunner was doing it and the way Floyd was doing it, and why Brunner sometimes failed at it. It's a timing thing. It's a look you give. It's not something that you fight with all the time. And it's not the be-all, end-all either. Like, just because you have the shoulder roll. The shoulder roll is based on your ability to see and time things. Otherwise it doesn't work. If you're able to see and time things, then you can make it work for you. I think Floyd knew when to use it, and it was amazing at it. I think James Toney used it the most consistently, though. So my favorite shoulder roll fighter for me is James Toney, because he was sick with it, and he did it on a more consistent basis. But I do think Floyd knew when to use it and knew when not to use it. For example, he's not really doing a lot of it against Cotto. He's not really doing a lot of it against Corrales. He's doing a lot of movement, a lot of smart boxing. So Floyd knew how to use it and not use it. But then again, Tony used it against everybody. But also Tony was like a tank. Tony had such a great chin, and Tony didn't mind being in the trenches. Floyd was still pretty boy Floyd, even when he was money. Listen, Floyd would get into a firefight if he had to, but he knew he was good enough to where he could avoid those kind of fights and start to box you in an intelligent way at center ring instead of using the shoulder roll if you were kind of too physical with him in the middle. I think you see it in the second Maidana fight. He makes some smart adjustments. Tony would use a shoulder roll against anybody. It didn't matter. But then again, Tony didn't like getting in the mud. Didn't mind getting in the mud. Tony didn't mind getting in the mud. And so for him, and he had a great chin. So for him, I think he was the most consistent with the shoulder roll, and for me, he's my favorite shoulder roll fighter. Although, shout out to Jersey Joe Walcott for all of those historians. He was a great shoulder roll guy, and maybe one of the first ones to use it.
Wally in LA is saying, would you consider coaching and training in the corner,
I've done in some part-time things. I've done it. I've worked with James DeGale, namely, as an assistant to Jim McDonald. But I just don't have time to give guys my undivided attention. I'm always on the fly, literally. I'm always on a plane multiple times a week, and I'm always moving. And I've got my own businesses to attend to as well. Everybody's trying to, survive in this crazy economy of the world. But I like to keep busy, and I like to keep busy doing things that allow me not only to support myself and make money, but also it's fun. And for that reason, I prefer to do what I'm doing. I don't want to be stuck in a training camp with a fighter for an extended period of time, working with a fighter. And then I get so busy with these other commitments that I do have that I would always have to be constantly out of the gym and out of camp. So I would have to be in and out of camp constantly. And that's just not fair to a fighter that hires you. Fighters want and deserve your undivided attention when you're their trainer, especially high-level fighters. So I don't see myself jumping into the training game. But respect to those who do.
How do you feel about Danny Garcia versus Jermel Charlo?
Not a bad fight, but remember Danny started at 140 pounds. Jermel, I think, has always been at 154. Jermel's a big guy. It wouldn't be a bad fight, from a curiosity standpoint. But and Danny's a pretty big kid. I remember at 140, he was a big 140. But when you take a big 140, then you get it to 154, he can start to become less effective against the elite levels 154s. And Jermel is certainly an elite level 154. I'd like to see Danny, if he's gonna go to 154 against somebody with maybe a bit more flat-footed, because Danny doesn't have the fastest feet, but he sets himself well, and he's very smart in his boxing when he's able to set himself well. I think Jermel his feet are quick, and he boxes from different distances. So the fact he has the size and then he's got quicker feet, I don't really like that fight for Danny. not that he can't handle it, but I just don't think it would be a fun fight to watch. I'd like to see Danny against guys who are a little bit more flat-footed, and this way we can guarantee that there'll be action flying in both directions. You might say Castaño, but Castaño may be too big to fight that physical kind of fight, because Danny's a 140-pounder moving up. I don't know if you want to be in that kind of in a firefight with a full-blown 154-pounder. I am curious. I do know Danny has been hinting at a move to 154, but we'll see.
Some people are asking, which one did I like right here? Hey, Paulie, do you think Prince Nassim underachieved with his talent?
I do think Nassim underachieved a little bit with his talent because he, retired early. And, we didn't get to see all of him all the time. I feel like he could have come back and still done some great things despite having taken losses. He only took one loss. He might have, if he came back and kept fighting at the elite level, he may have lost more. Who knows? But I still think it would have been fun to see him. He would have also won more, and I think he would have been super entertaining for boxing for as long as he would have lasted. You know what? He made so much money, and he was probably smart with his money. He seems like he's doing well over in England. So I can't knock him. And if he did retire at that age, which he did, it seems like the enthusiasm and passion he had for boxing left him, because he never really seem like he considered coming back or was ever among rumors to come back. So if you have lost the desire and passion that you once had, then it's probably best to retire. So I would have loved that if he would have kept that passion and burning and desire burning, even after the Barrera loss and the Calvo win for the European title. But I guess he'd had enough. I would not have wanted to see him come back as a less enthusiastic fighter, which obviously he would have been. So, from our selfish standpoint, as a fan of Nassim Hamed, I would have loved to see him for much longer. But from a realist standpoint, I also know that he probably retired at the best time for him.
Iceman coming in hot again. If Paulie could fight anyone in any era, who would it be?
It's an interesting one. I would like to fight Duran in a big ass ring like Ray Leonard got in the rematch, and just run my way all around and see if I could get him frustrated, or if he'd catch up to me and clobber me. Who knows? Because Duran seemed to get frustrated with real slicksters like Wilfred Benitez and obviously Ray Leonard in the rematch. So if you had the right approach with Leonard, you could affect him psychologically because he had this machismo style. So I'd be curious, to see, I would have just been curious to see how my style would have matched up against him. But Miles DePietro, if he caught up to me, I'd have been in trouble.
Beeble versus Canelo, your views coming from Stas.
I think there's a risk fight for Canelo. Beeble's a busy guy at light heavyweight. He throws a lot of punches. Canelo usually likes to control the pace, and he usually does control the pace because he's got so much power that he brings guys down to his pace and forces them to fight at his pace. But Beeble being the bigger guy and being a relatively strong light heavyweight, oh man, is that a no call? All right, well, sorry guys. The Juve Villarreal game is getting my attention. Villarreal wants a penalty. I don't think they got it. Are they going to go to VAR? Come on, this is what I mean with these games. Anyway, with Beeble and Canelo, oh man, no, don't call that. You can't give them that penalty. No way, that's too iffy. Anyway, with Beeble and Canelo, I think Beeble's pace could be a problem for Canelo if Canelo can't get Beeble to respect him. And as the bigger man, you may have a harder time having to respect a guy like Canelo. Now we're not fighting at middleweight or super middleweight. We're fighting at light heavyweight against a very respected, relatively heavy-handed light heavyweight. Oh, man, they're going to VAR. That better not be a penalty, man. I mean, the guy could have done it. The problem is he didn't get the ball, so you could call it. But at the same time, the contact, there's not really contact. Is there contact here? Is it like... It's not so black and white. You see, he got over, then he threw himself on the floor. He could have hopped him. Look, he could have hopped him here. Look at how he throws at his feet. Look at his feet. He goes down on purpose. Look, he could have hopped him here. Instead, he just flops. Look, you see right here. He could get over him. He can land on his feet. Instead, he chooses to land on his stomach. No, he called it. Unbelievable. That's what I mean with these VARs, bro. There's no logic and common sense. There's no logic and common sense anymore, bro. There's no logic and common sense anymore. It's crazy, bro. None at all. Like you can't look at a VAR. You're literally just going for the VAR. You look at the VAR and it's just black or white. There's no logic and common sense coming from these referees anymore. They're like what do you even need a human being out there for? You just get a robot out there because they don't even put the human effect into their decision making. They're so stupid and they're actually getting dumber at each and every time. You know. They had this waste of life Chesney in goal too for you, but he's still in that.
The Animal in April show is big fan here in Manchester, UK. Do you still speak to Ricky Hatton? That was a great fight. You showed a lot of heart.
And me and Ricky are cool. I don't hear from him that much, but you know, one of the coolest guys in boxing. I have a good relationship with him when I do see him, but I don't see Ricky that much. You know, he's over in the UK. But all respect for Ricky. Look at this. He could have saved it too. Look at this one. I mean, Chesney's horrible, bro. He dove the right way, went through his hands. You got to be kidding me, bro. You got to be kidding me. On a BS penalty too. Anyway, whatever.
I got one for you,
What's up?
For Paulie. Do you think Spence's eye will be now susceptible to injury from Pedro A?
You know, I think coming back from retina tear surgeries is always iffy. You know, I've been fortunate enough not to have either not go for it, not go through that. But I do think there's always a question mark. There's guys that have retired with retinal injuries that they couldn't come back from. I remember El Pollo Juan Valenzuela, who had a couple of upset wins. He was a Mexican fighter who was upsetting some guys. He was first an opponent, and then he upset the U.S. Olympic silver medalist Ricardo Williams and got himself a couple of good wins. And it looked like he was on his way to creating more and more problems in the weight class after having accumulated a bunch of losses early in his career from turning pro too young. You know, sort of like Orlando Salido and Manuel Medina had done. It seemed like Juan Valenzuela was on his way to becoming like that. And then the retina tear just ended his career, you know. So there's, you know, retina tears are very, very tricky, man, you know. So it could be difficult.
Okay. What are your thoughts on the Leo Santa Cruz will still be allowed to hold the WBA title at 126, even though he hasn't fought the weight in over 2 years?
My thoughts are it's total BS, and and Lee Wood should be the WBA world champion, the world champion. The super title is the world title now. They don't even, you know, the world title. It's funny. You got to be called the super champion in the WBA to be the world champion now. It used to be that the WBA super title would only show itself in special occasions, where if you made enough defenses or if you unified. Now the super title is actually all it is the world champion, and then their world champion is just a B title. But they sell that one as the world championship and the other one as a super championship, as if it's anything special. It's not. It's you can the super title can now be vacant. So it's just you know, that's the real world champion, the super champion. And I think I do not think Santa Cruz should be able to hold it now.
Jose S., why did the Brunner rematch never happen? You've been over this 1,000 times.
Yeah, the Brunner rematch never happened. I think my opinion is they thought that it was probably just a bad style matchup. They had Brunner pinned as the next Mayweather. And the next star in boxing. If you remember, they even had him on the pound-for-pound list when I fought him, which I thought was totally ludicrous at the time. And listen, Adrian's a talented guy, but I think they were overestimating him. And I believe that they probably just thought, nah, this guy still is what we thought he was. Paulie was just a bad style matchup, so we're just going to avoid Paulie, and we're going to move in a different direction against guys that he can clobber. And instead, they ended that hype train when he lost to Maidan. Obviously, Adrian was able to, you know, come back, win, and continue winning in his career, and then has had himself a very, very good career. But I think the Brunner fight didn't happen. The rematch didn't happen because I think they just would have rather avoided me. They thought it was just a bad style matchup, and so they never gave me that rematch again. Which, looking back, probably cost us tons of money. Cost us both tons of money, and cost the fans a fun rivalry, which would probably have turned into a trilogy that. One of the all-time classic trilogies that, you know, instead we're asking what if.
Eric Azuma is really firing. Best pizza, Vegas or New York? Is that even a question?
In New York. Not even a question.
Not even a question.
Okay. Next. This guy was asking, how often can a fighter fight if he didn't take that much damage or before? Is boxing hurt by the guys who take all that damage?
I mean, guys can fight more often if they're not taking as much damage. You know, we obviously used to see that in the old days. But I think there's not enough dates anymore. You know, boxing pays a lot more money than it used to in those days where guys were fighting every few weeks. You know, so because boxing pays so much money, where are you going to find all this money if top fighters are fighting every few weeks? How are you going to pay these guys with the kind of money that's being demanded now? So naturally, TV dates are, you know, are what they are, and they pay a lot of money, but you can't create so many more TV dates where champions are fighting every few weeks. Otherwise, it would cost the networks way too much money. So, and I don't think they want to invest that kind of money into boxing anyway. So that's it. I mean, because the business of boxing changed, it ultimately transcended and made the sport of boxing change as well.
Mark Pinkerton, Paulie, can you tell the story about going to the Hamed Kelly fight? Wasn't that the first big fight you went to?
Yeah, Hamed Kelly was my first professional fight I went to, actually. The first professional boxing match I ever went to. I had been seeing the billboards all over the trains, all over New York City, that this super hype boxer was coming, Hamed. And I had just started boxing 6 months prior. I had not even an amateur fight. So every day I was taking the train to Gleason's gym, learning to box, learning, you know, all my lessons and everything, you know, really, really into what I was doing. But I didn't know if I was going to actually be a boxer or not at the time being, because I hadn't even had one amateur fight yet. And I hear about Hamed coming to town, and he's fighting Kevin Kelly, who coincidentally was training in Gleason's gym. So I knew Kevin Kelly from the gym. And he winds up, fights at Madison Square Garden. And I got no money. I got nothing at that time, you know. I'm a high school dropout and trying to learn to box. And I remember I scrounged up. So the cheapest ticket was $25, and I scrounged up, my last $25 wherever I could get it. It was like, I remember like 10 of it was in singles, you know. So it was at that time we used more cash. And I get to and I have 2 tokens, which at the time you used tokens to use the train. So 2 tokens, one to get me to Madison Square Garden and one to get me back home. And I get to Madison Square Garden, and what are they doing? There's the line there, and they put me in position to get I get myself in position to get the cheapest ticket. I go to the ticket window, give the lady my last $25, and there's a $2 surcharge, and I guess the face I made this lady. I mean, I look like I was 14 when I was 17, you know, maybe even 13 when I was 17, and I had a hoodie on, and I had just a sweatsuit, you know, like a scrawny kid. And I looked at the lady, and I was like, and I guess I made a face like, I don't have it, you know, like I came all the way over here and I don't have it, you know. And she kind of looked to her right for a supervisor to see if he was checking, to see what she was doing, and she slid the ticket under the window, you know. So despite me not having those extra $2, she slid me the ticket, and you know that night I watched the most incredible show, and it changed my life. Look at this, Villarreal scored again, and now that's it, and that's the end of Juventus in the Champions League, and that's it on a corner kick. Ridiculous.
Sorry.
It's tough.
Yeah, it's tough. What are you gonna do? They lost the momentum with that BS penalty call. What are you gonna do? You know, what are you gonna do?
So who's your team now in Champions League? Juventus is out.
There's no Italian teams left. Inter got eliminated last week with Liverpool, so there's no Italian teams left again. So whoever wins it wins it. It's not gonna be an Italian team.
Is Liverpool good this season?
Liverpool's, they're all right. They're not, they're in European competitions. They're always dangerous.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Fantasy fight: Mayweather versus Hearns at 147.
I think Hearns is a tough guy for anybody at 147. If you really keep track of it, he won more rounds than he lost against Leonard in every time he fought him. You know, he got robbed in the second fight when it was a draw, and the first fight, Leonard had to knock him out. Coming from behind, he was behind. So the reality of it is Hearns probably is the most difficult welterweight to fight in history, unless you can knock him out, you know. And I don't see Floyd knocking out Hearns. I think Floyd is a more complete fighter than Hearns, but styles do make fights. And Hearns at welterweight, I think, is the most difficult welterweight to fight in history.
Your thoughts on this weekend coming up? Who's Xander Zayas fighting?
Who's he fighting?
Clint, you got that?
I think Xander is an exciting prospect. He's fun. He's fun to watch each and every time he's out there, and I think he's got a very, very bright future, especially at his age. You know, he's very mature, has a very complete fundamental style, and is good to watch. But so every time getting to watch his climb to the top has been exciting, and I think he's going to be around for years to come. To be honest.
Nictorious Combat. What can boxing do to make undercards more exciting? The one thing about MMA is that the undercards fights are 50-50, and people can watch the undercards versus the main event.
You know what it is? They got to make the undercard fights more competitive. You know, a lot of times you watch a pay-per-view in boxing, and all the money's going to the main event fighters, and the main event fighters don't want to part with it. You know, so there's only so much money you can infuse into the undercard, and so when you infuse it into the undercard, they wind up not making. You know, when you're infusing only a small percentage of that money into the undercard, you're not able to afford the fights people want to see. You know, I did see a very, very good undercard fight on the Gervonta Davis Pitbull Cruz card where Carlos Adames and Sergey Derevinchenko fought. You know, that was a rare dynamite pay-per-view undercard fight. But for the most part, the problem boxing has is they don't invest enough money in the undercards, in these undercards to make them competitive or make them even worth watching a lot of times.
Who's Sammy the Bull from the neighborhood?
No comment.
That's coming from Irish Repub 84.
Yeah. No comment.
No comment?
No comment.
Okay. How do you feel about Edgar Berlanga coming from Fernando?
I think he's an exciting prospect. Listen, Edgar has some things to work on, but I think he's been one of the more exciting prospects in boxing as well. You know, he had all knockout wins, all first-round knockout wins for a consecutive streak. You know, I do think he has to fundamentally balance out his style, but I also think that he can be very exciting. He can be very exciting. He can be fun to watch. You know, I don't think he's going to be as dominant as some people were thinking he was going to be when he was getting all those first-round knockouts. I think he can box better than what he's shown once he did start going rounds, though. I think he just had his mindset that he was going to knock everybody out. So I think once he starts working on his boxing and forgets these first-round knockouts and forgets all this knockout stuff, I do think that he's got potential to win a title. We'll see.
Does boxing need Don King again to make the best fights?
No, it does not. Boxing can make the best fights, but it wasn't about what Don King was doing.
Why does Suleiman always have trouble answering when pressed about WBC rules?
Because most likely they're always changing constantly. They're always, the sanctioning bodies unfortunately have sort of like a hybrid rules where they have them one day, and then if it's a little bit convenient, then another day they'll kind of change them slightly, and they'll apply a rule in certain circumstances, but then not apply the rule in another circumstance where it's less convenient, and so going across the board, it's there's no consistency, and that's probably why it becomes difficult. It's sort of like politicians.
Mark Pinkerton, Paulie, how good was Joan Guzman in the gym?
Joan Guzman was unbelievable. He was the most talented guy I've ever seen. It's just really, really sad that he just couldn't get any. He couldn't get any, I don't know, enthusiasm or excitement about his own training, his own boxing. They just, what is this? Now the got a yellow card here. I think it's a handball, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's another penalty kick. That's it. The wheels fall off the wagon for Juventus now. Once you let up one, that's it. That's actually his own mistake when misplaying the ball there. I don't know. Was that Cuadrado who made that mistake? No, Delict was in position. He had no. Yeah, no, it would put Delict in position to make that mistake, but it wasn't his error.
Who takes over at 140 now that Josh Taylor has moved on? We just did a video on this.
Yeah, we did a video on it. We're coming up soon, and we'll release it soon. The 140-pound division, it might be the new 135. It's very, very exciting, and it might become the most exciting division in boxing. Stay tuned for that video, and I'll discuss all that.
Nathan Ford, why does Paulie always hate on Manny Pacquiao? Always put Manny down for all of his achievements. He's an all-time great.
I wouldn't say I put him down, but listen. Come on, man. Listen.
Why does good things? Paulie?
How am I gonna word this? He did good things. What am I gonna do? What are we gonna say? He did good things. If up until 42 years old, up until 41 years old, he had terrific legs despite going through a 25-year boxing career. Just defied age, defied the so-called fountain of youth. Hey, man, what are we gonna say, right?
All right, Paulie, who really calls the shots nowadays in boxing? You got boxers with less than 20 fights and they get a title shot with boxers with 30 fights, haven't gotten one?
Who calls the shots? The networks, the promoters. It's all in the buck. If you see a guy that can make you a lot of money, you obviously bring him along, bring him forward more and more and more. If you don't have a guy who can represent that much money, you may not push him as hard. And of course, it also is in the kind of fighters that are coming up the ladder. If you see a guy who's got potential to have star power, you take care of him more, and you look for him to get that title shot. Sports are political. It's you can't lie about that. All sports are kind of political, with the officiating and the decision making that goes on off the field or outside the ring. In this case,
Murata, GGG, thoughts? Both haven't fought in forever.
Yeah, I've not been super impressed with Murata. Decent fighter, but I think he's more so in the position that he's in because he's an Olympic gold medalist from Japan, and he represents a region of the world that really pushes him and represents money there. But I don't really consider Murata that good. He's solid, but I don't think he's matured as a pro like some gold medalists can tend to mature.
William Doubleday, do you think boxing has too many titles?
Yeah, I do. I don't mind the 4 sanctioning bodies, but I do mind the bunch of titles that they start creating within those sanctioning bodies. The 4 sanctioning body world titles I think are fine because there's not enough dates to get everybody a title shot, and so they sort of can create a demand for unification and demand for all the fights to happen. But once you start creating all these other subtitles underneath, and they're created by the same sanctioning bodies, waters everything down, confuses, and really makes everything disappointing.
Somebody earlier was asking, we've kind of gone over this, Spence Crawford ever going to happen?
At this point, I don't even think there's as much interest in it as there could have been. By the time it happens, I do fear that it'll probably happen like the way Mayweather and Pacquiao happened, where neither guy really cares and neither guy really fights with that much enthusiasm, and they'll kind of they'll box and they'll hype it up and people will buy it and they'll watch, but it just won't have the same kind of bad blood and the kind of ferocity that it would have had if it would have happened earlier.
Paulie, this from the Fighting Prophet. Do you have any sports betting? Do you sports bet on fights? You tell me.
When I was young, I used to, but now not so much. It's, at the end of the day, I know sports betting is getting more and more popular. Actually, it's getting more legal and more legalized in a lot of states. But I don't do it. Every once in a while, I'll touch something, but not really, not as much as I used to.
This is a good one. Biggie or Nas?
Ooh.
Biggie, man. And I like Nas. I actually like Nas. There used to be, what's the question, Nas or Jay-Z? And Biggie was always compared to Biggie or Tupac. It's funny you mentioned Biggie or Nas. That's one you don't. That's a clash you don't usually get. I prefer Biggie to Nas, but I'm a big Nas fan as well. I like Nas a lot. I actually like Nas more than I like Jay-Z, even though Jay-Z was from Brooklyn. I like Nas's work better. I liked his music more. Not that I dislike Jay-Z's music, but I found myself liking Nas a little bit more. But for me, Biggie is the best rapper to come out of New York.
Biggie's the best rapper to come out of New York?
Yeah.
Can we get a best Nas album?
Best Nas album, it was written.
It was written?
Classic.
Yep.
I like that.
Best Biggie album.
And my favorite song on that one was The Message.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you think you versus McGregor will ever happen?
No, I don't, because I'll only let it happen if it's winner takes all. Otherwise, I won't even bother with him. At this point, I got to drag him through the mud the way he tried to drag me through the mud. It would only happen with winner takes all, and it wouldn't happen because he'd know he'd lose, and he can afford to lose against world-class opposition, and people will forgive him. But if he gets his ass kicked by me, then people will know he lied. So he can afford to lose to anybody but me. So it won't happen anyway. But even if it was to happen, I would only allow it to happen under winner takes all. And even though that's illegal, you could do something like the loser gets $5,000 and the winner gets the rest of the pot. So therefore, that's the closest you could come to winner takes all. So I would demand that kind of contract. Therefore, making it all the more unrealistic for it to happen. Because for me, there's no shot he ever beats me. No shot at all.
I like this one a lot. Where'd it go? Oh, should Pete Rose be in the Hall of Fame?
I do think Pete Rose should be in the Hall of
I
Fame.
think
Yes,
Pete Rose should be
I
in
think
it.
so, too.
I
Pete
do.
Rose should be in it.
Charlie Hustle.
Hey.
Charlie Hustle. Tyson versus Holyfield before Tyson was incarcerated.
Oh man, that's always a question we always find ourselves asking ourselves, right? It's
We just hit
hard.
100 viewers, by the way.
Huh?
Co-current. We have 100 viewers right
Nice.
now. Co-current.
Welcome, guys. Tyson versus Holyfield, man. Before the jail term, that's a hard one, man. I wish. You know, we still got some great. I mean, that first Tyson Holyfield fight is terrific. You know, so we still got a great one. But yeah, the hype that was surrounding that first one before he went to jail, woof, man, the potential that one had. I don't know. I guess it'll always be the what if of the year, right? It'll always be the what if. I'll tell you what, bro. The Razor Ruddock that fought Mike Tyson was a better fighter than the Razor Ruddock that fought everybody else too. Ruddock was a guy who after the Tyson fights, I didn't see him as the same fighter. He was still good, but I think the Razor Ruddock that fought Mike Tyson would have given a lot of other guys hell as well. You know, he was still good, but he wasn't as good after he fought the Tyson in those two fights.
I got one. Prince Jeff was asking Boots versus Virgil Ortiz Jr.
Oof, that'll never happen so soon. I wish it could. That's a great fight, man. Man. That's so tough to call. That's so tough to call. I guess we got to see more of them, but they are the two phenoms of the welterweight division. I'm sure that can possibly become the Mayweather-Pacquiao, Spence Crawford fight that everybody will eventually want to see. Hopefully, they don't make us wait the same length of time.
You're getting some love from Houston, Paulie.
Nice. I was just there on my layover today.
Yeah. Kind of wrapping up here. You see any, Clinton? Do you have any questions for Paulie?
Paulie, what rules do they have to change to make boxing back in the limelight?
I don't know. You could probably maybe make all the rings smaller. It would definitively make things uncomfortable for guys who fought like me, but it would force action. It would force a lot of more exchanges for sure. You know, I don't know, man. You know, that's the 10-point must scoring system is a little bit controversial at times. You know, the officiating in general is kind of iffy. But it's part of the politics of the game, and unfortunately, you probably can't get away from politics no matter what you do in life, you know. But I don't know; those are just a couple of things.
Is AC Milan Paulie's favorite football team?
AC Milan was my favorite team, yes, but now I just root for Serie A teams. I don't have that kind of love. It's funny. My footballing background is this: when I was a kid, I lived in Italy. My father got me a Juventus kit when I was a kid, full kit. And so I loved Juventus as a kid because my father got me this kit. But when I won the World Championship in 2007, AC Milan called my team, and they wanted me to come over to Milanello, and I spent a week there with the team. They ran a bunch of batteries of physical tests on me. You know, it was cool. I got to do a bunch of stuff with the team, and that was the team that had just won the Champions League a few months earlier. It was in the fall, and Milan had just won the Champions League in the final against Liverpool in 2007, just a few months earlier. So it was a great team. Ancelotti was the coach, actually. Leonardo was the assistant. And I remember just having a great time there. And after that, I said, you know, how can I not support these guys? Juve didn't even bother calling me, and Milan had me there for the whole week, you know. And so, you know, I had a lot of love for Milan. But after the attempted Super League situation that all these teams tried to kind of break away and create that Super League, they all kind of disappointed me, you know. So I can't say I bend over backwards for any of them anymore. I just root for the Serie A to be as strong as it can be, and I root for Serie A teams in Europe because I remember that when Serie A was the best league in the world, and so it's kind of nostalgic for me. And it's disappointing for me when I see the teams there now, they can't match up in Europe with the rest of the European team superpowers because they just don't have the money. They don't have the money to keep up, you know. And so with the Juventus' loss today, all the Italian teams are out of the Champions League once again. The politics don't help us either. We don't, you know, when you're not a money team, you don't get the politics on your side either. So you know, it is disappointing because I can remember being a kid and Italian teams were in the finals of every European competition all the time. I mean, I can remember up until like up until the late 90s, there was like an Italian team in the Champions League final almost every year. Cup Winners' Cup, I remember when that existed. The UEFA Cup, Italian teams were always in the finals or winning them. Sometimes you had all Italian finals. And I remember the UEFA Cup final in '89 with Juventus against Fiorentina. Was all Italian. I can remember. I think it was Roma versus Inter in '93. No, 93. Juve won the '93 UEFA Cup against Paris Saint-Germain against Borussia Dortmund. But maybe it was '94 was a Roma versus Inter UEFA Cup final. I remember Parma had a very good team. Anyway, it's nostalgic, but so that's why I root for Serie A. I don't want it to become relegated to a secondary tier league, and that's why I couldn't stand the Super League attempt that these teams made either.
Okay, last one. Where's Pete at?
Pete's in New York, man. Pete's at home, Pete's got the married life. I see him when I get back to New York. But, post career, I keep busy doing my thing, and Peter's a family guy, so he's back at home.
Is he going to come on Paulie TV soon?
He's still, I mean, if we get him out to Vegas, Peter's like a log. He doesn't really move unless he has to, His life is basically work and then come home and hang out on the couch, watch boxing, play with his kids. And he's got a 4-year-old son and a 14-year-old daughter from a previous relationship. And then, that's it. On fight nights, though, Pete invites the whole neighborhood on fight night. When I'm in New York and I'm watching the fights, the place to go to is Pete's house.
Shout out, Pete.
When can we get a classic Paulie and Peter cards rant?
If we do, in the PC world we live in today, if me and Peter Cards do a rant, we're going to get ourselves canceled from every platform. And then you won't have anything from us. So I think you'd rather have something from us rather than nothing from us. So if the Peter Cards and Paulie rants will probably have to happen on fight night in Peter Cards' house when there's no cameras.
And shout out Bensonhurst. That's what somebody
shout out to Bensonhurst. All right, guys. That's it for today. I'm in a bad mood. Juve got eliminated. But thanks for distracting me a little bit with this chat. We'll try to do it again soon. And I appreciate all the comments. Like and comment, subscribe. I appreciate the support. And, let me know if there's any subject matters that you guys want me to touch on as far as, a discussion that I should have a dual Paulie TV episode on. I know we discuss the fights when they're coming up. We discuss the post-fight reaction sometimes of the fights. Sometimes I use a quick selfie video where I'll give my thoughts post-fight right away, and we'll continue to do that kind of stuff. But let me know what you think about other subjects that I should discuss on Paulie TV episodes, maybe certain guests and whatnot. I'm working on not just boxing guests, but maybe other guests from other sports and other parts of life, other walks of life. So hopefully I'll keep you entertained. But like I said, comment, like, and subscribe, man. I'll talk to you guys soon.